Hello, it's me. So, Jeremy Corbyn. No, wait. Give me a second. I think he could become a prime minister, you know. Your party's doing quite well, really, if they just stop shooting themselves in the foot. And, they can stop throwing feces at each other because they're not talking to each other for whatever reason internally. That'd be nice, wouldn't it? So what does Jeremy Corbyn have to do to become Prime Minister? Well, does he have to win over men like me? And I don't mean necessarily older men, of course. Working class men, which are a bigger problem than older or younger men, actually. Working class men. Perennially ill-served by the tabloids, telling them on a daily basis what they should think and they should do. And guess what? They do it. It was a sad day that I realised that. That I realised that. I'm blue collar, working class, and a traditional lefty, as opposed to this liberal left, as I keep saying, monstrosity that Keir Starmer is the leader of. When I was working with the lads that I used to work with, we used to have conversations during our lunch break. We'd go back to the depot. And we'd have conversations. And as men are wont to do, they like to get along with each other and have a good laugh. And we used to do that. We used to get along and have a good laugh. But every now and again, politics would rear its ugly head. And there would be disagreements. So, I had a conversation with somebody who was like me, a traditional lefty, when we were out on the round. And I can't remember what happened, but we were all talking in groups at our lunch hour, as we always did. And then somebody shouts from across the yard, "Yeah, Marx is a lefty as well. So-and-so told me." And someone else shouts out, "You a lefty?" So I very calmly turned round, "Yes." And then a new group is formed, including myself, obviously, because men just will walk over and start these conversations. And the first thing that was kind of levelled at me was, "You don't like Corbyn, do you? He's an anti-Semite." So my reaction was kind of like, roll my eyes. I said, "What do you know about Corbyn?" "Well," and he proceeded to say everything that was in the tabloids. He was this, he was that. He was like Satan, effectively. And I said, "Do you know anything about his life, though? Anything about what he's done?" And in all fairness, the person I was talking to said no. And I, having looked into it, kind of started a conversation about all the things he'd done and why I felt he was a principal politician in the face of other politicians whom I also named, and we talked about various scandals and what have you that had been reported on. So what I noticed was there were men there who were listening to what I was saying, weren't disagreeing with me. They understood that they couldn't really because it was fact, but they just weren't about to consider in any real sense that Jeremy Corbyn was a real human being. He was this monster. And a couple of the other men were like, oh, okay. Well, maybe I'll look at that. And men are generally very honest. You know that they're not going to look him up. That will be the end of the conversation. And they will carry on with the way that they look at the world, and that includes their view of Jeremy Corbyn. It probably won't change. But when that came up in conversation, there were other men who were also lefties like myself, who were in praise of Jeremy Corbyn, I suppose you would say, in the same way that I was. I find it hard to say that I follow anyone. You know, I'll follow that person through hello. No, not at all. I've always been very weary of idolatry. I keep it very distant from me, and I'm always guarding myself against it. If Jeremy Corbyn turns out to be Satan, I want to be the first one to know. And I'll be the first to hold my hand up and go, I was wrong. He's Satan. But of course, that hasn't happened. And isn't likely to. So, how do we get past this? Really, we don't. We don't get past this. That old saying, haters gonna hate. Well, it's true. There is only one cure for this ill, if you like. This working class illness where men actively operate against themselves because they're being told what to say, do, and think by the daily papers, who don't have their best interests at heart, as we know now. You have to win, don't you? You've got to win an election. You have to get into government and you have to do the do. You have to politic. You have to make people's lives better in spite of them. Or is it despite them? Despite them. And hope, maybe a tiny bit, that some of them will recognise, oh, do you know what? He's actually doing what he said he did, you know. But that's only half the job. The other half of the job is overthrowing the establishment. Which, I don't mind telling you right now, isn't overthrowable. That's even a word. Probably isn't. But that doesn't mean you can't succeed. That doesn't mean you can't seep between the cracks and grow and undermine the foundation of the establishment. And the secretive forces that can, that sort of make these decisions in the establishment that don't wish to be public, they do what they always do. They recede. They allow it because they can't stop it. And then they plan 5 years down the road, 10 years down the road, 20 years down the road. And the job of all good thinking, and notice I didn't say right thinking, all good thinking individuals, is just to keep on going, to keep being good thinking individuals, to try to be even-handed, be moral, have a compass, and try to find against all the odds those individuals in positions of power who really don't want to harm you, but want to do good. So here I sit, some, bloke on YouTube, trying to make a contribution, trying to make a difference. I don't think so. But when you feel these things keenly and you have a voice, then surely that voice has an opportunity to be heard. And this is just me trying to be heard. So, let me know what you think in the comments below. Can Jeremy Corbyn be Prime Minister? Can your party win an election? Can they seep between the cracks and undermine the foundations of a corrupt establishment? as I say, do let me know. Do like, subscribe and share if you'd like to. And until next time, do look after yourselves.